How often do you see a sweet little old lady driving a hot rod? Well, probably not very often. That's because when we pick out a car, we pick out one that's right for us. And the same thing should be true when picking out a financial advisor. I'm Wesley Wood, the income guy and founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And for nearly 20 years, I specialize in helping hardworking Tennesseans just like you reach your retirement goals through income-based financial strategies. And if you're looking for the right solutions to achieve your own financial goals, you're in luck. You can reach out to me at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614. Now let's get back to that sweet little old lady driving the hot rod. Well, you probably don't see that very often because she's probably more likely to drive a car that's designed for safety, not necessarily speed. However, a young man might prefer that fast hot rod, that sports car, while a busy mom is probably going to choose a minivan for all of her children. The point is, you don't choose any car or any house or any doctor. So why would you do the same by choosing just any old financial advisor? You know, choosing a financial advisor should be a careful process based on criteria that aligns your needs and your goals. That's especially true if you're retired or you're within 5 to 10 years of retirement. But what exactly is the criteria? Well, today we're going to answer that question and we're going to examine the 5 things to look for in a financial advisor. We're going to talk about why it's important to find an advisor who specializes in retirement, also is an educator and a coach, and who doesn't use just cookie-cutter strategies. Also one that works with individual bonds, not just bond funds. And lastly, who is an elite financial advisor. And this week, on today's show, we're going to welcome back David Scranton. He's an investing for income specialist with over 30 years in the business. He's also a best-selling author and a TV host. But first, before we get to Dave, let's take a closer look at the first 2 things you need to look for when choosing a right advisor. Number 1, choose an advisor who specializes in retirement. You know, most advisors say that their main goal is to help you save and invest for retirement. That's only because retirement is the number 1 reason why most people save and invest. However, not all advisors specialize in helping you meet the financial challenges that are unique to retirement. A lot of challenges out there, like maximizing Social Security, knowing how to take RMDs properly, estate planning, inflation, and of course, one thing that's missed a lot, rising healthcare cost. An advisor who specializes in helping you meet those challenges specifically is obviously the right choice as you get closer or in retirement. You know, it's a lot like you wouldn't go to your pediatrician if you're in your 20s or 30s. You end up graduating there and you move to a doctor that specializes in adult health care issues. And the same idea applies here. You want to look for an advisor that's also an educator and a coach. And that shouldn't be too difficult because advisors who are educators are usually typically proud of it. They teach at area workshops, they do adult education courses, they write books, they host radio shows, and of course, TV shows. They make teaching you and the general public a priority. And they also want to be your financial coach. And they believe working with you, not for you, to create and maintain a strategy that's going to be not only meeting your needs, but suiting your goals, and is going to keep up with any changes in your life and the changes in the financial markets. And all of that is different from an advisor who's just an order taker, meaning somebody that's just going to stick you in certain products. One who's more interested in teaching and coaching you is so much more important, instead of working with somebody that's just more interested in collecting fees. But it's also different from an advisor who uses just cookie cutter, one-size-fits-all strategies, rather than working with an advisor that customizes and manages a portfolio and a plan that's right for you. And we're going to talk about more of that in just a minute, but right now let's welcome back my friend and today's guest, David Scranton. A little bit about David. David is the founder of Sound Income Strategies, a registered investment advisory firm, and he has more than 30 years of experience as a financial advisor. He's also an Amazon best-selling author, and Dave is also the founder of the Retirement Income Store and the host of the Income Generation on YouTube. Hey Dave, thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me back, and I guess I did an okay job last week, so you invited me back, and I appreciate that.
So far, so good.
Can you, can you elaborate a little bit, please, again, on the things that your viewers need to look for in determining an advisor that's better suited for younger folks versus somebody maybe my age or even a little older who's really on that final descent into retirement?
Well, you know, it is important because many advisors are growth advisors. They more focus on the accumulation phase, meaning people that are younger, that are more about accumulating their assets, and they're putting money into portfolios. They're not as worried about getting close to having to take money out. And there's a different stage and there's a different way to invest if somebody's younger and focused on accumulation versus somebody that's focused more on distribution and income. And with advisors, there's a difference. There's advisors that do more growth, accumulation types of investments, and there's other investment advisors that are more like income specialists that focus on working with those clients that are now retired. And a lot of times you can just find that by understanding what's their main client base, who are they primarily working with.
So I know you talked about somebody who's an educator, and you know, nobody wants to feel like they're being sold, so I understand that part of it. But why do you always stress the concept of having an advisor who's a coach to help you with retirement planning?
Yep. Well, you know, having the right coach is very important because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And if you're working with somebody that's using just more kind of cookie cutter strategies, kind of set it, forget it, not really coaching you or really helping you, there could be some problems there because there are going to be some events like retirement, life-changing events that happen when you are in retirement where you need to have, you know, that sounding board as a financial coach and an educator to instruct you really what play to call in that situation and to be ensured to, if you will, win the ball game of life or in retirement.
Sure, and I guess the reality of it is all your goals up to that point are goals, lump sum goals, where you want to save for a car, save for a home, save for college. You're going to spend the money in a lump sum. But I guess what makes retirement so much different is it's the one goal that you don't cash out of your investments in a lump sum to buy something. It's the income goal, and because it's the first time you're doing it, I guess that's why you need a coach, not just an advisor.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I work with very few clients that are young because their goals are a whole lot different. Like you mentioned, a lot of people are saving up for that very first house, maybe to put that down payment towards that home, or perhaps they're wanting to send their kids to college and they're having to save up for a certain lump sum to pay tuition. That's a whole lot different than taking money and then generating an income stream. It's just a different world. So it's really important to work with that specialist that knows how to generate income. But hey, Dave, thanks. And we're going to be back with Dave here in a few minutes. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk more about the next 2 things you need to look for when choosing the right financial advisor.
Retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs are great tools to save for retirement. They offer tax advantages to help keep more money in your pocket. But withdrawing money from your accounts can have a huge impact on your tax liability. Take money from the right account at the right time and you could minimize it. But taking money from the wrong account at the wrong time could result in a big tax burden. If you're not sure what you should do with your 401k in retirement, visit retiretv.com to schedule a free, no-obligation conversation with Wes Wood and Wood Financial Group.
I'm David Scranton. During my career, I found that most baby boomers have done a great job growing their retirement savings, yet many don't know how to convert their savings into steady income. And that is why I built the Retirement Income Store, to help hardworking Americans preserve their assets and establish steady streams of income.
If you're 55 or older, please claim our free Retirement Income Kit, chock full of information you need to know to get steady income during your retirement. Call 866-714-7377, online at theretirementinComeStore.com.
Welcome back to the Retirement Income Show. Today, we're talking about the 5 things you need to look for when choosing the right financial advisor. And so far, we've talked about how you need an advisor who specializes in retirement and one that's an educator and a coach. Now, let's talk about how you need to choose an advisor that's not going to use just cookie cutter strategies in your retirement plan. I want you to imagine this just for a moment. When you look at a crowding parking lot or a crowded highway, you don't see just 2 or 3 or 4 different types of cars. You see hundreds of different types of cars. And in most cases, they represent hundreds of different types of drivers with all kinds of different wants and needs. And in most cases, each person driving a car is going to drive one that suits their needs. Now, let's get back to that sweet old lady that has that hot rod. Could it be that maybe she's just unique and she likes fast cars and she likes hot rods and she chose it because she feels like it's right for her? Or could it be a different situation? Could it be that the dealership just sold her that type of car and they didn't really care if it was right for her or not? They only cared about making the sale and making that commission. Well, unfortunately, the same thing happens in the financial world. And typically, these types of advisors are going to have anywhere from like 5 to 10 different cookie cutter set portfolios that they offer. Yep, some of those portfolios may be 100% stock based, and maybe 80% stocks, 20% bonds, maybe ones at 60%, 40, 60, you've heard them all, and so on and so forth. And they might even ask you to complete a risk tolerance questionnaire. And what they're going to do is take that questionnaire, put it to a computer algorithm, and supposedly that algorithm is going to determine which portfolio is right for you. But there's a really good chance that it's not going to be the best fit, especially if you're in or nearing retirement. You don't want a cookie cutter one-size-fits-all strategy spit out by a computer. What you really want is a customized strategy created with you, with a financial coach and an educator who specializes in retirement income. And that's something that we can help here at Wood Financial Group. You can reach out to us directly at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614 to get started. Now, all these things bring me to the 4th criteria that you need to look into before choosing the right advisor. You need to choose an advisor who offers individual bonds, not just bond funds. And there's a big difference. Simply put, an individual bond is a contract-based investment that comes with 2 important guarantees. A bond mutual fund not only lacks those guarantees, but also contains a lot of the same risks that a stock mutual fund may have. And be aware that if an advisor tries to offer you a bond fund as one of the conservative options, it's probably because that bond fund represents the conservative end of his or her aggressive business model. The real conservative option isn't bond funds at all. It's actively managed portfolio of individual bonds and bond-like instruments, tools used by advisors who specialize in portfolio protection and retirement income. So, what are those 2 guarantees that you get with individual bonds, and why are they so important? Well, we're going to get to that in just a minute. But right now, let's welcome back my friend and today's guest, David Scranton. Hello again, Dave.
Hey, Wes. So I get that you're a big believer in custom, but you and I are both pretty down-to-earth, practical guys, right? We don't go out buying custom suits.
Right.
We don't live in custom homes. Nice homes, but not custom homes, right? Even golf clubs. I don't know about you, but I know I don't have custom golf clubs, and I don't think you do either. So why is it so different when it comes to investing, custom strategies? Aren't there times when, a cookie cutter strategy that's designed for a retiree might be okay?
Well, it could be. There's always that chance that cookie cutter strategy may work out for that retiree. Now, the cookie cutter strategies may work out okay for those younger folks that are in the accumulation phase, but in most cases when they're retired, that cookie cutter isn't going to work out. People have different goals, different needs, different income goals, different ideas on what they want their investments to do. And when I'm meeting with people, it's better to understand exactly what they want and get to the root issue and listen to them, and then create a portfolio that's going to is going to meet those goals. Maybe we need to look at tax strategies. Maybe we need to look at RMDs coming up. We need to look at what's the best way to generate interest and dividends. And if we just throw it into a cookie cutter strategy, a lot of times it's going to conflict with their actual goals and the things that they're going to want to look for.
So last week we talked a lot about Social Security, making the decision as to when and how to take it and how that's customized. So is the Social Security decision that I make for myself. Is that a good example of why investments need to be not a cookie cutter solution, why they need to be custom, just like the Social Security decision is?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, maximizing Social Security is a huge component on maximizing income in retirement. So what you need to do is look at the best way to maximize Social Security and perhaps create a portfolio around it to maybe bridge the gap of income that you may need. Not only Social Security, but a lot of people still may get a pension. Well, when's the right time to take a pension? Should I take this type of pension? Should I take the joint of survivor pension? And depending on which one you pick, it may have an effect on the type of custom portfolio that you put together for a client in order to generate the income that they're going to need, along with the pension, along with Social Security. Everybody's situation is unique. Nobody's is the exact same,
Sure.
Nor should the portfolios be the exact same in this cookie cutter model. And what
Gotcha.
happens a lot of times in our industry, and you well know, is that by filling out just a risk questionnaire, throwing it into a computer, going through the algorithm and saying this is what you need to have, is just easier for the advisor to do, and a lot of times it's just there to cover themselves.
So I know you poo-poo the risk tolerance questionnaire, but is it all that bad? I mean, you do need to determine as a fiduciary, which you are, the proper risk tolerance for each individual client, correct? So what's the better way?
Well, no, that's definitely right. I mean, the types of investments that you're going to use in a portfolio need to be aligned not only with their goals, but also their risk tolerances. Obviously, we're not going to put investments into a portfolio that may be a little bit more aggressive, like value-based dividend stocks that generate interest and dividends, for somebody that has less tolerance for risk.
Well, Wes, I guess my question is, what's the better way to make that determination then, what the risk tolerance is as an advisor if you're not using said questionnaire?
Yeah, well, really just listening to them, being a coach and educator, taking in all their information, not only their risk tolerance, but also their goals, and just really taking the time to understand their needs, and then building a customized portfolio for them, not just filling out a questionnaire.
Something much more personal, it sounds like, than some computer algorithm.
Exactly right. And Dave, thanks for those questions. And we're going to have a lot more with Dave Scranton in just a moment. But after the break, we're going to talk about those 2 guarantees that you get with individual bonds and why these guarantees are so important.
A fiduciary is someone legally obligated to act in your best interest. Doctors, lawyers, and some financial advisors are fiduciaries, but not all. When you work with Wes Wood and his team at Wood Financial Group, you are working with fiduciaries. They help clients create customized investment portfolios based off their retirement goals. If you're ready to work with a fiduciary, visit retiretv.com and schedule a free, no-obligation conversation with Wes or a Wood Financial Group advisor.
I'm David Scranton. During my career, I found that most baby boomers have done a great job growing their retirement savings, yet many don't know how to convert their savings into steady income. And that is why I built the Retirement Income Store, to help hardworking Americans preserve their assets and establish steady streams of income.
If you're 55 or older, please claim our free Retirement Income Kit, chock full of information you need to know to get steady income during your retirement. Call 866-714-7377, online at theretirementinComestore.com.
Hi, I'm Wesley Wood, host of the Retirement Income Show, and I'm founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And we're a local independent financial services company that specializes in creating custom retirement solutions tailored to meet your particular needs.
Visit retiretv.com to learn how we can help you create a customized retirement portfolio.
Welcome back to the Retirement Income Show. Today we're talking about the 5 things you need to look for in a financial advisor. We talked about how you need an advisor that specializes in retirement, who is an educator and a coach, and one who doesn't use just cookie cutter financial strategies. And lastly, one who works with individual bonds. Now, let's talk more about those individual bonds. Earlier I mentioned they come with 2 important guarantees that you're not going to get with bond funds. So what are these guarantees? Well, the first one is repayment of the face value when the bond matures, providing there's no defaults or bankruptcies. Secondly, a guaranteed dollar amount of interest over the payment for the life of the bond. First, you get all your money back if you hold it until the bond matures. You'll get it regardless whether the bond value drops on paper during that time, as long as you hold it to maturity, even if the bond market goes up and down. Second, you get interest in the form of interest and dividends at a guaranteed fixed rate during the life of that bond, regardless of any ups and downs in the financial markets. That income is the return on your investment. It comes in the form of interest and dividends rather than a return in the form of growth through capital gains, as it would with a mutual fund or other growth-based financial strategies. Obviously, that's income that you can use to achieve your financial retirement goals. But it also is income that you can potentially use to reinvest in other income strategies to grow your portfolio organically. But what does all this have to do with the fifth thing you should look for in a financial advisor? Well, that fifth thing, as you may recall, is to look for an elite financial advisor. The good news is that when you find an advisor who specializes in individual bonds and bond-like instruments, you found your elite advisor. The reason why most advisors offer only growth-based strategies is that investing for income is a much more specialized field. And the growth-based approach is actually simpler. It's easier to offer just a handful of cookie-cutter strategies and let a computer determine which strategy is right for you. It's easier to just stick you in a bond mutual fund and let the fund manager do all the work. It's easier to be an order taker rather than an educator and a coach. It's easier to put that granny in the hot rod and take her money than to take a special order and get the car that's right for her. On the flip side, it's much harder to know how to actively manage a diversified portfolio of individual bonds and bond-like instruments, or a stock or a value-based stock dividend strategy for people with the right risk tolerance, of course. It's harder to work directly with clients to create and manage strategies that suit their specific needs and goals, a strategy that tackles all the challenges that are unique to retirement. It's more difficult for sure, but that's why you can be sure that when you work with an advisor that specializes in retirement and retirement income, they are very much so an elite advisor. He or she can help you choose and manage a strategy that's right for you. You can discover all that today by reaching out to us directly at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614. But right now, let's welcome back my friend and today's guest, David Scranton. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Wes. So I hear you and I agree with everything you typically say, including now, but I also know that you're not an extremist. You tend to be very reasonable in all of your approaches. So you and I know there are some times when a bond fund is actually appropriate. So I think it might make sense, take a minute, maybe share with your viewers, when that might make sense to actually have a bond fund.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, there's no just clear-cut approach every single time. A lot of times a bond fund is useful for folks that have less than, let's say, $150,000 or $200,000 when they're needing an income strategy, because you really need to diversify individual bonds. So what a bond fund does give you that's kind of a good quality is something that will produce income and diversify those smaller dollars. So a lot of times for folks that have 50, 75, 100,000, maybe a bond fund could be a right fit to diversify a portfolio and get some type of income. It's not the best way, because people that have over $200,000 and $250,000, which hopefully you have at least that much when you're entering in the retirement years, may be better off using those individual bonds. That's one scenario. Another one could be also to get involved more in the foreign bond market area as well.
Okay, foreign bonds, got it. Bottom line is the benefits of diversification for a small investor trump the lack of the two guarantees. So, got it.
Exactly. Yep.
But you also talked about dividend-paying stocks. And today, as you know, dividend-paying stocks, if done right, can yield as much interest or dividends as bonds and bond-like instruments. But you always say when you talk about dividend-paying stocks, don't try this at home. Why is that?
Right, exactly. And I talked a lot about bonds. Bonds are just one of the income-generating investments. Yes, dividend value stocks. So, growth stocks are actually easier to invest in because really you're just investing on the momentum. Buying an Amazon or an Apple, you're just investing in the momentum of the markets. But if you're investing in a dividend value stock, you really got to know the company. You got to make sure, because you're investing it for the dividend, to make sure that they're going to continue paying those dividends. So you got to take a deeper dive, understand that company, understand that sector, to make sure that they're not maybe at the tail end to where you're going to have some issues with those dividends. So it can actually be more complicated to get into those types of dividend paying stocks, which is why you need an advisor that specializes in that field, that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's what you often refer to as a value trap if you get into a value-based stock.
Exactly.
Too late in its business life cycle where it's starting to decline, the price is going down, the dividends are getting cut, and so on. So
That's right.
Work with a professional to avoid value traps. Got it.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, thanks, Dave. It was great to talk to you again today. And lastly, I'm Wes Wood, the income guy. And if you have any questions about the things that we've covered in today's show, please reach out to me at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to tune in next week.
A fiduciary is someone legally obligated to act in your best interest. Doctors, lawyers, and some financial advisors are fiduciaries, but not all. When you work with Wes Wood and his team at Wood Financial Group, you are working with fiduciaries. They help clients create customized investment portfolios based off their retirement goals. If you're ready to work with a fiduciary, visit retiretv.com and schedule a free, no-obligation conversation with Wes or a Wood Financial Group advisor.
Hi, I'm Wesley Wood, host of the Retirement Income Show, and I'm founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And we're a local independent financial services company that specializes in creating custom retirement solutions tailored to meet your particular needs.
Visit retiretv.com to learn how we can help you create a customized retirement portfolio.